God bless you both. Touch love.
Yeah, it's been what, like almost 3 weeks since I talked about it. He's here. Do you know we've been talking about it for years now? I've been following this guy, this WBO champion, Billy Joe Saunders, since 2009, something like that. And I've been covering all these fights, and I was thinking to myself, I said, Lemieux was the perfect fight for him to showcase his talents. Yeah, the Artur Alcaval fight, I felt as though it was a draw. You know, I was like, yo, he looked like shit. He even said it. But now we see who he really is. And now, guess what? All of a sudden, people are saying he's the 160-pound Mayweather. You hear all this shit they've been saying? But hey, praise to Billy Joe Saunders, WBO champion. And yes, it is official that he is a legitimate threat to Canelo Alvarez with the movement, the speed, the punch variety, and Gennady Golovkin, who has, even though these have been his biggest fights, his last 3 fights, even though they've been big fights against Kell Brook, against Danny Jacobs, against Canelo Alvarez, even though I felt he won all of those fights, maybe it's to step up in competition, but he has been looking vulnerable, you know? What if Billy Joe Saunders has what it takes to dethrone him? Well, Saunders already seems to know that Canelo versus Golovkin 2 is likely official. Well, not official. It's not official, but it's done for May. You know, both of the teams, you know, have been saying like, yeah, this is the fight we're trying to make and everything. It looks like, though, Canelo was trying, or Canelo's team, Golden Boy, wanted David Lemieux to win so they could possibly have that other option and say, well, hey, listen, if y'all don't take this deal, Golovkin, then we're going to go fight David Lemieux because he beat Billy Joe Saunders, but he didn't beat Billy Joe Saunders. So now Billy Joe Saunders is in a situation where he has so much bargaining power now. He has that belt. He's coming off a good performance. HBO will likely have him back. And Danny Jacobs is the B-side. So, unfortunately, we got to talk about the politics. That is the main reason why I feel, and many people feel, that Danny Jacobs and Billy Joe Saunders, or excuse me, A-side Billy Joe Saunders and Danny Jacobs cannot happen. Billy Joe Saunders, a Frank Warren, Box Nation, BT Sport fighter. Danny Jacobs, a Eddie Hearn, HBO fighter. Now, the networks is not the issue. It's these promoters coming together. You know, and when it comes to the international rights of these fights, and also it's starting to circulate around that Danny Jacobs is going to be fighting in New York again in late April. So would Billy Joe Saunders have to travel again? You know, even though I feel it would be a good fight for on an international scale, and for, like, if these promoters were to come together for a fight like this is big, major, like, news. If Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren were to come together for a fight like this. But it would take a lot of money for them to come together for a fight like this. But when you look at the 160-pound landscape as it stands right now, it's these guys have to fight each other. And it makes so much perfect sense. I don't see why it cannot happen outside of the promoters, you know? Because it's like an unofficial tournament of sort, because they know that they have one of the Dragon Balls, the last Dragon Ball, that WBO title. Or if Billy Joe Saunders wins, he'll have, you know, Willie Monroe under his cap. A lot of people feel that's a credible win for him. A lot of people feel that's a credible win for him. You know, he's got David Lemieux, where people were saying he was going to get his head knocked off. And then if he gets Danny Jacobs under there and then goes, you know, on and gets, you know, Canelo or, you know, Golovkin, it's crazy. Now, of course, you have that wild card, Demetrius Andrade, but they're saying he may fight Derevchenko. So it's a complex situation. It's fucked up, you know, but that's that politics in boxing shit, man, how it fucks up, you know, fights. And it's mostly because on the international scale. And it's not Danny Jacobs' fault, you know, that this fight didn't do as well as expected, meaning the Louis Aries fight, but you know, it was an entertaining fight.
Ring the bell. Boxing. Come on, Lewis.
Now, for those who don't know, he is the first of two Gerald Big Baby Miller to be signed to Eddie Hearn Matchroom USA. So this is an international UK boxing promoter, you know, doing something unprecedented to the point where he's trying to become a major player in the U.S. market. He's got a lot of money behind him, and he's putting on major fights over in the U.K. And I'm talking to the casual boxing fans who don't know who he is. You know, he's putting on 90,000 at Wembley, and they will throw it in your face. You know, so now he's doing something somewhat risky, and you know, it's a game to an extent, because I've learned that when it comes to, like, you know, trying to juggle what network you're going to align yourself with, what promoters you align yourself with, you know, because you got to have fights for your fighters to fight. You don't want to, you know, piss off other promoters. You know, you may not want to work with them, but you kind of have to, because they have the fighters in the divisions, the fighters that you may want to fight. So it's risky what he's doing, but at the same time, you know, he's somewhat like, this was a good entry into the sport. You know, I mean, not into the sport, into the market over here. You know, and a lot of other fighters are going to be watching what he's doing, and the promoters, they're like, yo, we don't want him coming over here to try to do that shit. You know, we don't want to be giving him no fighters. You know, but fighters are going to be like, hey, listen, man, I'm not active enough. Or, you know, and he said, you know, that fighters were calling him. He wouldn't say any names, meaning Eddie Hearn, you know, saying, you know, well, you know, you got Danny Jacobs, so what's up? Sign me up too, man. I'm inactive. You know, and he can see, here's what he has. He can tell you, depending on what division, he can say, hey, well, listen, I can bring you over here to fight Kell Brook, put you in a stadium. So he has that type of clout, you know, but it all depends on the fighters. But when Danny Jacobs, in this case, with this sort of HBO thing right now, if you're a 160-pound fighter, HBO is where you want to be. And that's just a political landscape. Just like if you were a 147 or 154-pound fighter, Al Heyman fighters fight on Showtime. Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, you know, Lamont Peterson, Errol Spence, Sean Porter, and the list goes on. At 154, Aries Landy Lara, he has all the belts outside of the WBO, so Showtime is where you want to be. You know, so Danny Jacobs, you know, and put it this way, Al Heyman has had a questionable relationship with HBO. So a lot of fans have been thinking, well, wait a minute. You know, he signed with Eddie Hearn. Al Heyman fighters don't normally sign with promoters. You know, and he signed with HBO too. Did Al Heyman have a part of this? That's a logical question for boxing fans to ask. So I noticed a lot of people were like, man, what does it matter? Y'all hating on Al Heyman? No, people just want to motherfucking know. You know? It's not, you know, but they've been doing a good job keeping that shit a secret, because, of course, Danny Jacobs, you know, he's not going to say, no, I'm not with Al Heyman no more, even if he is or he isn't. It's just, you know, what we've been hearing is he's just doing it out of respect. Whatever the case may be, truth be told, I don't give a fuck. Excuse my language. But with Danny Jacobs supposed to be coming back in April, you know, late April-ish, and, you know, Canelo fights in May and September, they're chasing the money to whereas, okay, well, we want to get you on the same schedule as him. So, therefore, you know, y'all have time to build up the fight. You know, y'all be on the same schedule, stand about, you know, which is smart. Now, you would expect Billy Joe Saunders to get on that same schedule, too. But who, in the 160-pound division, which we're going to go look at right now, can these guys, you know, fight if they don't fight each other? That would carry on the momentum that they have, because remember, Danny Jacobs can't go on in his next fight after basically a comeback fight with Louis Aries, Arias and fight just like some top 10 contender. He's got to ride that momentum from going from pay-per-view with Golovkin, won or lost. They may say, you may have won the battle, but you didn't win the war. Danny Jacobs, became a good name in boxing. His stock rose. Then another major move in signing with Eddie Hearn. That was a major move, and now this next fight has to be something big to keep, like with that momentum. And Billy Joe Saunders, he can't afford to backtrack either. They got to ride that momentum. They're saying, like I said, listen, go read the comments, go, see what people are saying. I'm like, he is good. He's really good. I've always said he was, but you have people saying like, oh shit, he's the next Mayweather at 160 and shit. He's going to school the shit out of everybody. They got to ride that momentum. You got to ride that wave, man. You got to ride that wave. So let's go look at 160. Let's use BoxRec 160. Here he is, 26 and 0, with 12 KOs. Notable names: David Lemieux, Willie Monroe, Andy Lee, Chris Eubank Jr., of course, and then you got Scary Spike O'Sullivan. At that point in time, was a big fight. The Nick Blackwell fight was the big fight. The Gerald Fletcher was a big fight. I started covering him at Tony Hill. It was Tony Hill. It was a Tony Hill fight. I started covering him. It was the Tony Hill fight. What was I looking for? So let's look at that 160-pound rankings, or just 160 in general. We can try to go through a process of elimination. In fact, no, let's do it this way because we want to look at the rankings too. And for those who don't know, like when you're a champion, you have to fight somebody in the top 15 of your organization. So please subscribe. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Also, this is my website, FightView360.com. Big major things planned and going on. So let's go down to the 160-pound division. We are updating our rankings monthly consistently. Soon there'll be like we're working on getting it more innovative. So basically you'll be able to see, who's like the mandatories and things like that. So as you can see, Golovkin has 3 belts: the WBC, WBA, Super World, the IBF. Billy Joe Saunders, the WBO. Now Golovkin's supposed to be fighting Saul Canelo Alvarez next. Now, we're going to stay away from the WBC. We're talking about Billy Joe Saunders. So, as you can see, Danny Jacobs is ranked number 4. You have Jamal Charlo, who's supposed to be fighting Hugo Centeno. He already beat David Lemieux. Rob Branch's lost in the World Boxing Super Series at 168. So you can't really, I don't think that. Put it this way, we're looking for who can Billy Joe Saunders fight that can make money, that can keep the momentum going. That's what we're looking for. And if he doesn't fight Danny Jacobs, if he doesn't get Golovkin or Canelo, then he has to fight one of these names in the top 15. And who can it be? My God, right? So he's in a bit of a situation where, and Danny Jacobs is in a situation because who would Danny Jacobs fight in this next fight? These guys got to keep their momentum going. They got to keep their momentum going. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how would these promoters come together to make this fight happen when they've had a history of not working with each other, but also when it comes to their situation over there, it's like basically HBO fighter fighting a Showtime fighter when they're both signed up to these networks. So even though Danny Jacobs is American, he's a matchroom fighter, and matchroom fighters fight on Sky Sports unless there's something in, the agreement where, well, since it's an American fighter and this is Matchroom USA, not Matchroom Boxing over here in the UK, then it's a different brand, different entity or some shit. So whatever the case may be, and he's not obligated to Sky Sports over there or whatever. But it seems as though when you listen to these fighters and when you listen, especially like to Billy Joe Saunders, they may want each other, but they know that there's an issue right there. And also with the money and the fact that, would like the money, in my opinion, especially with Billy Joe Saunders, with the way that things are going for him right now after that Lemieux win, the money would be for Danny Jacobs to go over to the UK to fight him, get that UK payday and get that, more exposure, on a global scale to make now, if you fight the winner of Canelo Golovkin, even bigger because it's like, oh, shit, people thought that you won against Golovkin the first time. Then you went overseas, got a belt, now you back, and, the storylines are there. But if Danny Jacobs, if you hear that it's set for Danny Jacobs to fight in New York, you know, in April, you know, or whenever he's supposed to fight, then you have to think, well, wait a minute, did Billy Joe Saunders and his team agree to that? You know? So that's when you start asking questions, okay, well, who are these guys going to fight? And also, what if Danny Jacobs decided to test the waters at 168 pounds, but still, that makes you question what would Billy Joe Saunders do? So, you know, that's all deep down the rabbit hole and all that shit and the motherfucking brainstorming and the cobwebs. What is it? What is it? The web theory, like where you just draw a circle and then like all the shit just keep branching out everywhere. We don't want to be doing no 20-minute videos, man. I'm just trying to tell you what's going down, just trying to spread the word, you know, not hold no allegiances, fight the power. TstreeT Controversy, TstreeT Controversy Live. Please subscribe.